من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها النبي إذا طلقتم النساء فطلقوهن لعدتهن وأحصوا العدة واتقوا الله ربكم لا تخرجوهن من بيوتهن ولا يخرجن إلا أن يأتين بفاحشة مبينة وتلك حدود الله ومن يتعد حدود الله فقد ظلم نفسه لا تدري لعل الله يحدث بعد ذلك أمرا. فإذا بلغن أجلهن فأمسكوهن بمعروف أو فارقوهن بمعروف وأشهدوا ذوي عدل منكم وأقيموا الشهادة لله ذلكم يوعظ به من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب ومن يتوكل على الله فهو حسبه إن الله بالغ أمره قد جعل الله لكل شيء قدرا. واللائي يئسن من المحيض من نسائكم إن ارتبتم فعدتهن 3 أشهر واللائي لم يحضن وأولاة الأحمال أجلهن أن يضعن حملهن ومن يتق الله يجعل له من أمره يسرا. ذلك أمر الله أنزله إليكم ومن يتق الله يكفر عنه سيئاته ويعظم له أجرا. أسكنوهن من حيث سكنتم من وجدكم ولا تضاروهن لتضيقوا عليهن وإن كن أولات حمل فأنفقوا عليهن حتى يضعن حملهن فإن أرضعن لكم فآتوهن أجورهن وأتمروا بينكم بمعروف وإن تعاسرتم فسترضع له أخرى لينفق ذو سعة من سعته ومن قدر عليه رزقه فلينفق مما آتاه الله لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها سيجعل الله بعد عسر يسرا. وكأين من قرية عتت عن أمر ربها ورسله فحاسبناها حسابا شديدا وعذبناها عذابا نكرا فذاقت وبال أمرها وكان عاقبة أمرها خسرا أعد الله لهم عذابا شديدا فاتقوا الله يا أولي الألباب الذين آمنوا قد أنزل الله إليكم ذكرا رسولا يتلو عليكم آيات الله مبينات ليخرج الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات من الظلمات إلى النور ومن يؤمن بالله ويعمل صالحا يدخله جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا قد أحسن الله له رزقا الله الذي خلق 7 سماوات ومن الأرض مثلهن يتنزل الأمر بينهن لتعلموا أن الله على كل شيء قدير وأن الله قد أحاط بكل شيء علما.
As the gender war rages on, in order to keep the peace, we must discuss the exact facts. Welcome to Exactly. I am your host, Saudi Ma'am. Remove your shoes, enter upon your right foot, upon the right state of mind, bi'idhnillah. Topic: my red pill burnout and why women just don't get it. So, we have, mashallah, with us a guest. I guess at this time I'll bring him in so that we can, and he's going to remain incognito, actually, during the podcast. So, I would like to begin with greeting the guests. Assalamu alaikum, ya akhi.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How do I sound to you?
So, are we good audio? Mashallah. Alhamdulillah. So, if you can hear, I can hear.
I can hear you clearly. I think Yusuf Chowdhury is in the background, but if that's him, then he's muffled.
Yeah, he needs to
But
be
you
quiet.
said you're coming through clearly.
Yeah, Yusuf needs to be quiet in the background, actually.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Subhanallah. So, alhamdulillah. So, nevertheless, I guess, we've gathered to discuss this topic. Inshallah, alhamdulillah, you were gracious enough to get up early so that we could have this discussion. I appreciate you, as always, akhi. And it's been a while.
Gladly, sir. Glad to do it.
Alhamdulillah. So, let me begin with the just to start it off. You know, there are as far as the burnout is concerned, on my part, there are leaders and heads and famous personalities in the manosphere that are of the red pill variety. You have the Rollo Tomasi, of course. You know, he's and these are from the Kufar mainly, right? So you have the Rollo Tomasi, you have the Richard Cooper, you have Joker from Better Bachelor, and things like that. These people are some of the most well known. Of course, on the Muslim side, we have Coach Kareem, we have Abu American, we have Mahdi Tajani, and we have maybe a couple of other ones I'm forgetting. But nevertheless, one thing that also plus there are some red pill aware females, basically, as Yusuf coined it, red pill aware females, and they tend to speak on the side of the manosphere, you know, and not from the woman suffrage side of things, you know. So again, that's what we have in that regard. Do you know of any besides these that I mentioned? I think he's out. I think he has to come back in, inshallah. I think he's out. Inshallah, if you can come back in. Nevertheless, I'm sure you can hear me. I'm gonna tell him, please return. Come back, inshallah. Nevertheless, this is what we have these days. Now, he's coming back, alhamdulillah. Let me add him back. Okay. Are you there, Akhi? Okay. He says he's reconnecting now.
All right, so it's back now.
Okay, alhamdulillah. I don't know what that was, but alhamdulillah, you're back. Are you aware of anyone else besides the ones I mentioned that are in the red pill community?
I heard you say some names, and then your voice went underwater.
Okay.
And but the ones I heard you mention, let's see, I heard you say Abu American and Ahmed Tijani.
Yeah, from the Muslim side. Yeah.
From the Muslim side, and then you mentioned a coach. Did you say Coach Kareem?
Yeah, Coach Kareem. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, the ones I knew of actually were just only I knew of Abu American and Ahmed Tijani. I found out about Coach Kareem from you. Then I try. I do my best, but I only have 2,856 subscribers, and I'm not really. I'm not ready to grow just yet. So the other one I know of that's Muslim from the Muslim side is me by name.
Okay. Okay.
What I found is that I've had several that are in the audience, but they're not making content.
Okay.
So I've got subscribers that are Muslim, but they're not. They have accounts, but they don't have channels, if you will. Those are the ones about whom I know. I do know that many Muslim men are more aware, to the extent that in some people's minds, Islam is closely related to red pill awareness.
Okay.
In the minds of Muslims and in the minds of non-Muslims alike, this is what's going on. When I've heard some white and black audience members say that Islam has it right about women, and some of them they don't fully understand the rights of the women in Islam when they say it. Especially, usually the ones that are both Caucasian and non-Muslim, because they get fed the most stereotypes and the least education. So they're the ones most likely to say, "Oh, Islam has it right about women." But as far as content creators go, from the Muslim side, I know about just those two, Abu American and Ahmed Tijani. And I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody right now. And to those who I'm forgetting about, I apologize.
Yeah, and it's you know, Ahmed Mahdi is the same root, but it's Mahdi Tajani actually. He's the one we've been waiting for to come back.
Okay, that's right. Mahdi Tijani. Sorry.
Now the brother Jawad, and walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to those that gave taslim. Brother Jawad mentioned Gabriel Al-Romani, but I don't. I've heard a lot of white pill, soft pill from him. You know, a lot of gel tablet from him actually. When it comes to the male and female relation, because he's just going to go off of what the Islamic standard is. But see, they don't understand that the red pill awareness is about these new women, this new breed, this new crop. You know, when they used to say uh, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, these are ones that actually landed here on Earth. They're not the traditional women that we understand. So now this red pill awareness was needed for men to say, oh, that's what's going on. It's actually a systematic attack against manhood and the natural order, natural gender order. Now, Gabriel Romani, I don't find him in that sphere. Now, um, what we have is that the Muslim man knows the standard that Islam set, and then they are dealing with women that are outside of that Islamic frame. And I'm not saying all the men are inside the Islamic frame. That's not what we're saying. We're talking about the origins and roots of a quote unquote manosphere. A safe place where men can go and learn about how to deal with this new alien that has landed upon Earth, that is not traditional, that is not of our grandmother and mother's ilk. For us of this age.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot about Gabriel Romani. I was thinking of Gabriel Romani on Facebook. I didn't think about him being on YouTube, but he does in fact have a YouTube channel. I just completely
Yeah.
forgot that he did. The reason I forgot about him also in that regard is because I saw a thumbnail. I didn't watch it, but I saw a thumbnail in which he had a debate, and I think he was debating
Mhm.
Mahdi Tijani. And so that's part of why I just didn't really think much about it afterwards.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. So
and
he's not in that sphere really. He's not in that sphere.
yeah,
But Gabriel Romani, what I'll say about him is the reason he's not in that sphere, and I don't think he wants to be even associated, uh, because he's just talking about the Islamic standard, which we can
yeah,
agree. He's talking about the Islamic standard, but again, he hasn't yet adjusted to this new phenomena. Maybe if he adjusts to this new phenomena, he'll be like, oh, okay, you know, these are people outside of the Islamic frame that we have to address now. So I think that might be a turning point for him. Subhanallah. Yeah, brother Yusuf is saying, Amoo Yusuf saying that he is actually anti-red pill. So alhamdulillah,
uh,
long as he stays pro-Islam, I'm good, mashallah. And he's pro-Islam.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Alhamdulillah, he is pro-Islam. And the truth be told, the thing is that if the system still was in place, then there probably would not have been a need for red pill awareness. But
Yeah.
when you remove these controls off of a population, then then it winds up becoming necessary. And the thing that is, I'm going to say to Muslims in general, whether it's him or anyone else, and that is that the if it's wrong, then it's a necessary evil. And I don't like to use that type of vocabulary in many cases. But if it is wrong, then it's one of those necessary evils because it's not really much of a choice. And I see where Yusuf said that Muhammad hijab in some of his circles are anti-red pill as well. And I've actually recorded and uploaded videos correcting them about this and telling them to, in so many words and with the due respect, telling them to please close their mouths about the subject because frankly, we're talking about something going on in particular environments, and it was an experiment on one community, and then it was shown to be effective on other communities. Um, Years ago, over a decade ago now, I had I wouldn't say another channel, but I was recording and uploading under another name. And when I was doing so, one of the things I was trying to tell the Muslim community is that they've experimented with something in the black community. And I knew because I was going through it at that time, but I didn't tell the audience. However, they were experimenting with something in the black community and it was working. And that was pretty much you underfund the men, you overwork, but you underpay the men. And then you turn around and you underwork, or you overwork, but then you pay the women, you make sure you pay them more than their husbands get. And then this way, you've already interfered with the mechanism of family formation because of the natural hypergamy of women. And then on top of that, you put out images in the media that are going to that are going to portray their men and betray their men as being worse than what they are. And I would use Egypt as an example, and I would say if I wanted to just ruin Egypt, and I'm in charge of the job market and the media, then that would be an easy thing for me to do as long as I've got control of both of them at the same time. Pay the men less, pay the women more,
Yeah.
depict the men as being a bunch of irresponsible, clumsy, bumbling idiots, and then the women are going to turn against them and see them as no good. And it's going to show up in the homes. It's going to break up the families. It's going to harm the kids, and then the nation's over and done with. And so the thing is that if it's so we're reacting to something that was pretty much forced. This is not an option. And so he went in on Kevin Samuels, and I actually felt bad because I had to sit up and defend Kevin Samuels from another Muslim. But this was a case in which Kevin Samuels was just simply correct. He ain't always correct in my eyes, but
Yeah.
this was a case in which he was just simply objectively correct, and Muhammad Hijab was not correct. And if the same thing is done to the same extent to whatever ethnic community from which comes Muhammad Hijab, then he's going to understand what Kevin was talking about. And I don't know, it may have already been started, but it just hasn't reached that level of progress yet. But
Yes.
when it does, we're going to be seeing a different tune. And that's actually the pattern when it comes to the black community, the black members of the community that are also Muslim, and then non-black Muslims. Usually they don't get to see it right off the bat. But we have to be this canary in the coal mine. We start saying this is what's going on, and then to them we sound delusional until it starts to happen to them.
Okay, brother Jeremiah is asking, is anti-red pill just blue pill? Now, I would say no, because Gabriel Romani, as we mentioned, is a very masculine individual. He's one that spoke against Mufti Mink knitting on a video. We need to teach our young boys to knit. Like, for what purpose? Is knitting the reason that the Muslims are bottom feeding and being destroyed around the world? We don't know how to knit well enough. What are we going to knit, an AK-47? What are we going to knit? So he's promoting this knitting thing, trying to, emasculate our young men and encouraging parents to teach their men knitting. You might say, well, if a guy knows how to knit, it doesn't mean he's, feminine. Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in the time where you should be doing push-ups, it's not a time to knit. It's kind of like priorities, dear Sheikh, priorities. So Gabriel Romani would not be considered blue pill because he will be just considered Islamic, as I said. You know what I'm saying? He'll be considered Islamic. So with this being said, one of my reasons for burnout is the repetition amongst the red pill, whether it's Muslim or non-Muslim. Because the reason the non-Muslim and Muslim red pillars can be put in one box or one bag is because they quote similar statistics. They sound the same. They sound monotonous, right? To a certain extent. Then where they differ is in solution, or they should differ in solution. Man, don't get married, just hump and dump. That's what the Kafirs side said. And the Muslim side says, nah, we can't do that. So that's where their divide happens. But my burnout with them altogether is the repetition of statistics, which are not hard fact. Statistics are just to bring awareness. So not hard fact, they're just to bring awareness. And also percentages, etc., which can actually be proven by document that this many women versus this percentage of man initiate divorce, right? So we can prove certain things, and certain things are statistical. Like, for instance, if you got 8 million people, probably more in New York, they'll poll 1,000 people in a certain borough on a certain street corner and tell us 9 out of 10 New Yorkers believe this, which is, you cannot, you can't verify that. All you can verify is that borough on that corner next to that corner store, that poppy store where you actually took that poll. So again, that's where my burnout happens, the repetition and the percentages, which are important, but that's almost what it only is. Now let's talk about solution. And if we can't come up with a real solution, that's going to be consistent and congruent. If we can't come up with a real solution, then what are we going to do? How are we going to solve this issue? Because after a while, we're going to get to why the women don't get it, but it looks like just a bunch of men sitting around smelling each other, bashing women.
Yeah, it could seem like that, and we do have to have a different solution. That's very true. As I stated yesterday on my last upload, we have to be different in terms of the conclusions to which we're going to jump. And even Mahdi Tijani talked about this in his last live stream. Same thing. He was saying that when you can digest the information, but if you overfeed on it, you can put yourself into a rage. And at that point, what are you going to do? Because you can jump to extreme solutions. Right now, the red pill is not associated with those alphabetic orientations. Everybody's clear that they're different, except for the ones who want to slander. There are those who want to slander us, of course, and they're going to say that there's some sort of relationship. But what it is that, in a nutshell, we do have to be different in terms of solution, but we got to be more proactive. Because what the misandric feminists want to do is very clear. What they want to do is they want to set it up to where there is no geographical solution. So you can't just perform hijra and then you go somewhere else, and then like in my situation, you leave the West and then you find some ladies that are actually serious about doing their part, and you find a give and take relationship within marriages between spouses. They want us to ruin that so that it doesn't matter where you go. You go somewhere, you land in the capital city or the major city, and then you go into the rural provinces and you find the same thing that you find in Baltimore, Maryland. Well, that's what the misandric feminists want. And they're utilizing chat rooms and Google Translate to do this. And they're making headway. But we men are not necessarily collaborating with the guys in these local countries, our potential in-laws, and telling them, listen, this is what they're doing in these chat rooms. And this is what they're utilizing Facebook for, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok. We need to be ahead of this. And our sisters, our daughters, our nieces, really, we need to know what their social media accounts are. We're not telling them don't have them, but we need to know what they are. There needs to be a penalty if we find out about one that they didn't disclose to us, because that means that they're getting this information and they're going to spread it to other ladies, or they're going to get this viewpoint, I should say. It's not even information. They're going to spread it to other ladies, and they're all going to be on code to demand that men pay the cost for the ladies to be the boss. And so now, if that actually does happen, then the misandric feminists would have grounds to stand on and say, well, your only options are either going to be that you spoil us and you give and we take, and that's it. No give and take on both sides, but you give, we take. Or you're just out there with a bunch of dudes. And they would have the grounds to say that. And so we do have to we got to different our solutions. That's true. And one of the solutions I've been telling men, Muslim and disbelievers alike, is go ahead and start practicing male chastity, the fasting, even taking a little bit of soy milk into the diet, like maybe twice a week or something with your cereal, because it does lessen the effects of the testosterone if what you need to do is lower the libido. But that men have to, on one hand, men have to be ready to practice male chastity and be ready to practice long-term abstinence. On the other hand, which men wind up doing anyway, it's already happening, but they have to do it intentionally. But on the other hand, I'm not telling anybody to take a vow of permanent celibacy. I'm simply saying that we have to be ready to use hunger to control the thirst, if you will. We would have to do that because men are already celibate for the most. A lot of times they're celibate. The younger you get, the worse it is. They're already celibate, but they're not weaponizing the celibacy and getting in front of that train and steering the train on the tracks they want it to go on. So it's sort of like women are relegating most men to celibacy. And then what happens is that these men think that as soon as they get an opportunity, they can't pass it up. And therefore, these women are not going to offer any fair opportunities because they don't have to. And so that's what we have to differ. And like you said, we can't do the pump and dump thing. But by the same token, we can't sit up here and continuously validate the worst kinds of women either. And they have a market lock in the West where that's exactly what you have to do. I mean, think about it. You don't have the option to marry a woman that is as mature as as mature for her age as you are for your age. Not only does she have to be younger, but they've got the market sewn up to where they can all be immature and they can act half their age. And as a matter of fact, they can use the term girly to mean feminine. No, whatever happened to woman?
Yeah.
And so they're pretty much saying we are going to be Lois Lane with an M at the end. You have to be Superman, and you better not even so much as look at Wonder Woman. And matter of fact, the Wonder Women out there, they got to hide because the Lois Lanes are sitting up here bashing them and calling them pygmies and actually socially ostracizing them. And they actually have them afraid.
So the this BIH soldier, BIS soldier 91, he mentioned something that I noticed. O'Shea Duke Jackson, he's manosphere. I don't know if he's red pill, but nevertheless, this brother right here says a bunch of men today scream alpha, but the moment an 8 or a 9 show up, all that alpha goes out the window and the simping starts. Okay, O'Shea Duke Jackson, I forgot which episode just recently, he mentioned that he was talking about a certain female. He said, man, look, he said, take my money, please. You know, he said, yeah, I'm red pill and all that. But he said, man, but take my money, please. You know, he went there. He was like, man, this woman's so fine, she could have my money. You know, and he was saying it kind of in jest, but, you know, some of the ha was taken out of it. He was like, man, you know, this one right here can have my money. And that's generally what gets us when the 8 or 9, you know, shows up. We tend to sacrifice our values for it. I mean, and they look worth it, but you know how us men work. They call it pre-ejaculation euphoria or something. It's a sophisticated term they have for it, because once a man relieves himself, he becomes the most intellectual person in the room. You know, once he relieves himself. One scholar said once the male member goes up, half the mind go away. And others argued against that and say 90% of the mind goes away. My philosophy originally is this: blood travels to the member in order to erect it, right? So that means you have less blood flowing to your brain. You know, you have less blood, which carries the oxygen flowing to your brain because your member went up. You know, and this is what happens to us. Yes, no matter how red, we can be maroon pill, we can be burgundy pill. We are going to simp out if that situation happens. It's going to simp if that situation happens, and I'm not saying all of us are going to do that. Some of us are going to maintain an intelligent point of view. We're going to maintain our intelligent frame, and what happens then is that, you know, we're going to be called, you know, yag and everything else insult that they tend to hurl at us if we don't acquiesce, you know, over to that foolishness. Because yeah, it looks good, but hey, the left hand is just as good. You know what I'm saying? As far as clearing your mind, the left hand is just as good as far as clearing your mind. And all she gonna do is seduce you. You're gonna clear your mind. You're gonna roll over, not even get her name. You know, and that's generally what the advice is from the Kappa side of the quote unquote manosphere. You know.
Well, a lot of guys really nowadays, a lot of guys, especially young guys under 30, I forgot what the stats are, but younger men are actually not active at all. I mean, a lot of them are, high numbers of them are not active at all. And so, but then again, the younger women are getting these triple digit body counts or high double digit body counts. And so what that does show is that it pretty much shows that it's a few guys that are running through the bulk of the ladies. And the term I've heard them use is post-nut clarity, where once you're done, then you can think clearly. But what I found is that, and this is something I don't understand why it is that Muslim men have not taken the forefront in promoting. What I found is that when it comes to fasting, it's the complete opposite. Then the male libido drops, and hers does not. Until she's going to reach starvation levels of fasting, hers doesn't drop. And we don't fast to starvation levels. We're not starving ourselves with fasting. And so that actually reverses everything. And I'm trying to understand why it is that Muslim men have not informed other men of what goes on, because that's actually a normal phenomenon. You go through Ramadan, and then your libido's, I wouldn't say completely gone, but it drops. You don't feel like a lady. It's not anything like that, but you just lose that, or you lose most of it, and then hers is up, and so she gets a view into your perspective, and you get a view into her perspective. So the thing is that I understand the abundance mindset, and that's good to have in the face of the ladies because it's a gender war. This is not a conflict anymore. It's a reproductive, exclusive gender war. But in reality, guys got to understand that it's not abundance. That's not what's going to happen. And even this whole idea of being alpha is a fallacy to a certain extent. I don't mean being masculine is not true. What I mean is that this idea of being alpha is a fallacy because these terms came about from two zoologists who independently did the same thing. They studied wolves in captivity, then they studied wolves in nature. So their whole idea of what was the alpha was based on an artificial situation. And both of them, when they studied them in nature, found that these so-called alphas were just the fathers.
Yeah.
And the alpha female was the mother, and the others were the cubs. That was the pack. They were related. And so they came to this conclusion independently of each other, but they came to the same one. They first said somebody comes out as the alpha, and then they later said that's actually in a natural situation a breeding couple and their own cubs or their own pups. And so we're sitting up here trying to act like, and we're trying to show, each one of us is trying to show that we're the leader amongst men in front of these ladies. No. That's not how we work. We're not wolves. We're animals to a certain extent, but we're not wolves. And so what it really comes down to is, are you being masculine? And if you are doing that and they're giving you trouble, which they're trained to do in the West, then what that means is that it's something with them. The only thing men need to take accountability for is being too easy. It's not being alpha enough per se. Not everybody's going to run anything. Men become alpha in different contexts. In a classroom, I'm the alpha. I have to be. That's my job. If the kid's not going to accept that, he has to fit the guck out. And I may have to throw him out. Sometimes I've had to push them out the door and then lock it behind them and keep them out so I can teach the class. But in that situation I turn around and go into a restaurant. I'm not an alpha and I'm not an omega. I'm not at the bottom or the top of the pecking order. I'm a customer. I see the menu and I see the prices and I make a decision. We negotiate something, work something out. And so oftentimes these ladies are sitting up and talking about, well, he's not alpha enough. Once they start talking about that, that's when we're starting to deal with hybristophilia. Because what they see as alpha is some caveman stuff. In the West, they're trained to assess men the way that cave women would assess the stereotypical caveman, if that's even an accurate depiction of human history in the first place.
Yeah. I think that was Europe, actually.
I'm sorry?
I think that was Europe, exclusively for Europe, actually.
That could make sense.
Because all the caves that we know about in history, even from the Islamic perspective, were hewed out mansions and real sophisticated, carvings and things like that, where they would hew out a rock and make it into this sophisticated with the pillars and all of this, but the scratching their head, kicking rocks, discovering fire, that looks European. Even all the cartoons clearly shows that it wasn't worldwide, But nevertheless,
Yeah.
Betts says the problem is many alphas are out of shape in America. This is something we don't speak on. I may agree. I think many of the Americans are out of shape. I know young, they look like football players, soccer players, came over from Muslim lands and turned into these gelatinous individuals with third trimester bellies. So they did that because of the modes of transportation here is not primarily walking, and also the food is trash, right? So and the ingredients are trash, the GMOs and all this type of stuff. So nevertheless, an alpha that has financial stability doesn't need to be in shape, based on simple hypergamy. I know for a fact, I hung around as a youth, black mafia and things like that. These individuals were not necessarily in shape, but they had the money, they had the wherewithal, and they, back in the day. It's back in the day, late 70s, my time, late 70s, early 80s, when I used to keep the company of individuals like that as a youth. They had the money and the resource. They had the nice Lincoln, as long as Lincoln made them, nice Cadillac as long as they made Cadillac. And they didn't have to have good looks. I don't think they had to smell good. Women would flock toward them because of resources. So we all need to be in
Well,
shape.
it's good to be. I would say get in shape for its own benefit, certainly. But
Yeah.
oh, this is funny. Jawad said they got a biryani belly. But the thing is that if we examine these, because see, Bets wants a man to be financially in shape too, and I know because she's told me. She's not looking for a man to split 50-50. She's looking for a traditional situation. She's explained this to me before. And since she's looking for a traditional situation in a give and take, I don't have a reason to sit up and trash her because she understands the give and take, or seems to understand the give and take. Now, I do know someone that has said, no, that's not what she's looking for, but I never saw it myself. However, I got to point this out, and that is that see, with men, when we're looking for these ladies, we understand the give and take, even just in having standards. We're told if you have the standard, you need to drop that standard. And these things may not even be mutually exclusive naturally, but Western women are going to not come with certain things in combination. They're going to refuse to combine certain things simply because they're convenient for men. They're just not going to do certain things in the West because they can't sit up in the hair salon and brag about giving their men this and that. They can't do that. So, as a matter of fact, they can't even say that their man treats them well in the hair salon and join the sisterhood. That's a way to get kicked out of the sisterhood.
Oh yeah.
And my own mother explained this to me 2 decades ago. 2 decades ago, my mother was telling me how in the hair salons it was getting bad, and that she said these girls are so trifling that I'm not going to get. She had to make appointments with the hair salon owner. My mother would pay her extra to open up earlier so that my mother didn't have to hear this stuff because my mother was going to. My mother said that at some point she was going to speak up against these young chicken heads talking about taking and not giving, and they were going to pin her down and shave her head if she was lucky. And so she paid the hairdresser to open up earlier to do her hair so that she didn't have to hear them and be around them. She said it's just a matter of time before they turn on someone like me, because I got sons and I want to speak up. And but here's the thing, though, Bets. You say Muslim men should be warriors. What I'm going to say is this, Bets. Let's talk about if we're going to be financially and physically in shape, because those two are mutually exclusive. You can't earn money in the gym. You can't be in the gym and earn money at the same time. You can't build muscle and earn money at the same time unless you're not earning a lot of money, because physical labor doesn't pay that much. So let's look at that natural mutual exclusivity. That's a natural mutual exclusivity. Why should we go through the trouble of putting both of these naturally mutually exclusive things together, or financially mutually exclusive things together, in exchange for women that are going to sit up and say, I will not help my husband save money and be submissive? Now, I didn't say I'm not going to pay him or I'm not going to split 50-50 with him and then be submissive. I'm not asking ladies that. But how about just simply, I would not even help him save money and then obey him? That's what we're dealing with in the West. So it's really more important for ladies to be able to understand that they are taking things that are not mutually exclusive and they're artificially making them mutually exclusive than it is for us to be out here trying to get a bag and get some muscle. Because you pretty much got to be independently wealthy and retired to have a bag and have some muscle and have time to do nothing but go to the gym in between the prayers. We have to understand that, Bets. Everything's got its limits. But we're dealing with artificially imposed limits by Western women, and we're sitting up here trying to get around naturally imposed limits in order to satisfy them. It's still not the same, Bets. It's not about what Muslim men should be doing. I set up and said what Muslim men should be doing. And as a matter of fact, most men, young men, period, they're going to need to fast and they're going to need to change the diet to lower the libidos. Well, that's not going to be conducive to lifting weights at the same time either. So, I mean, really, that's what we need to do, because that's the thing that we men have, Western men in general, now I'm sorry, men period, really, the thing we've been doing wrong, and that includes the Muslims, is that we've been sitting up here being too easy for ladies.
So Jawad said, I'm happy if I find a submissive butterface who is righteous on her deen. Some of these sisters look like the Transformers way, too similar in appearance. You know, that makeup, you know, a man can make himself up to look like a beautiful woman in the face. Of course, you know, the penis is a dead giveaway, but the makeup themselves in the face to look like a woman, okay? And just like women make themselves up to look like a different woman. So that's what he means about the Transformers. You know, a man appearing as a woman is the same as a woman appearing as a different woman with makeup on. So, but just to tell you, Jawad, one of my recent ex-wives looked like Kevin Hart in the face, you know, and it still didn't work out. She still had hubris, you know. She still thought that she was privileged. She still thought that she was better than what she was. She was Kevin Hart, you know. You know, I mean, she told good jokes and everything, but it didn't work out. You know, it didn't work out. So alhamdulillah. So you can go for the butterface. You still may have the same problems, you know, if you get a Kevin Hart. Nevertheless, again, I want to address Bets as you have when she said Muslim men should be warriors. We need to eat healthier. I said she, astaghfirullah. I have no idea. When Bet said Muslim men should be warriors, we need to eat healthier. This is why the ummah is weak. No, the ummah is weak because of the mentality. Okay, it's the mentality of the sheikh mentalities, following the sheikh. Sheikh says don't fight. You know, sheikh say this is good, this is bad, so on and so forth, and it's inconsistent with Islam. So that's why the ummah is weak. The ummah is being held back from their potential by individuals that have become, you know, popes and thobes, basically. So again, it's not really the working out. Ibn Massoud was a little skinny man. He was so skinny when he made wudu, he pull up his izar or whatever and expose his calves. The Sahaba used to giggle because how skinny he was, but no one denied that he was a lion on the battlefield. So even if we do need to be healthy and work out, I'm not going to deny that. I would say the mentality needs to change first and foremost, inshallah ta'ala. So now continuing, I mentioned leaders of red pill within the manosphere, and I left out Kevin Samuels. You mentioned briefly Kevin Samuels, and Kevin Samuels is one of the few, like I said, I'm burnt out to a certain extent, but Kevin Samuels is one of the few that I still enjoy, as in his shorts. He put out these shorts. I enjoy the shorts. I don't watch. I used to watch, when you used to put me on to Kevin Samuels a long time ago, I used to watch whole episodes, right? And look forward to the live. Now, I haven't watched the live in so long, a whole one. But I watch these shorts. And these shorts are very entertaining. I'm not learning anything. They are very entertaining, though, you know. And the same with the Joker, with Better Bachelor. Joker, he has these thing called dating profiles. He'll read a dating profile and he'll give some analysis on it. And you know, he'll basically just read it, and it's really comical reading it verbatim, but he'll give some analysis, which is very, very entertaining. But like I say, I'm burnt out on the statistics. I'm burnt out on the percentages. They're being repeated over and over, and it's not having any effect. It's not having any effect, a positive effect on the individuals that really need to be addressed. You can coach a man up. Man, your home life should be like this. Your wife should be like this. You need to be like this. As soon as he get home, you know, he dealing with that same person. Now he has to try to change her. Say, oh, no. You were a simp when you left earlier today. Now you come back at the end of the day. Now you're trying to be alpha. You're trying to be red pill or whatever. No, dude. Our house don't work like that. And if you keep talking, you're going to lose me and the children and the very home you just entered. You know, because the system is on my side if I want to, you know, man up, you know. So, like I said, I still enjoy the Kevin Samuels shorts and Joker's, Better Bachelors, dating profiles, more of an entertaining type enjoyment. But as far as the other stuff, I'm burnt out on it because it became monotonous, too repetitious, and the women just aren't getting it.
No, they're not going to get it. It's not something that they're even forced to get. I mean, as you said, the system, though it should be on our side, the system here is on their side. And there's a guy named Sandman out of Canada that says that already what's going to happen is that he can see what's coming down the pipe, and what that is that feminism is going to become more and more political, and it's going to become even more and more backed up by the law. And see, one of the differences is that when it comes down to the things that a misandric feminist would want, her dad will also want these things for her. But if you take a man as red pill, his mother's not going to back him up. A man can want a give and take scenario, and his own mom may not even back him up on that. She may or she may not. Oftentimes, women that do have these understandings fit a certain profile, and that is that they have sons. They almost never care what's in it for the man until they have sons. I mean, I got an aunt that didn't care until she had sons. My own dad said, my sister was a hardcore feminist until she had my nephews. Actually, when her nephews became teens, that was when, and they became teen fathers. Both of my cousins became teen fathers. That's when she began to care. But and then there's another lady named Red Film Diaries, born again Christian, who has a low life expectancy. She's expecting to pass away within a year due to cancer, based on the prognosis that doctors gave her. But she has sons, and she's putting out confessions, like she's telling her sons on her YouTube channel, this is what we women want to do to you. We want to not give. We want to have this man's kids, and then we want guys like you to raise the other man's kids. We don't respect you by default. We're always looking for chinks in your armor. We're never going to quit trying. She's confessing this sort of thing. And oh, by the way, Bets, I heard that China also banned feminism. So at least I can say that China was balanced with it. But the thing is that if you imagine your situation, Imam, where you reach this awareness and you're pretty much saying, okay, yeah, my son-in-law is going to have to be responsible, a responsible husband to my daughter. My daughter also is not allowed to sit up here and try to tell him to pay the cost and for her to be the boss. So you have this give and take situation, but your stance itself may sound, even to a loving mother or a loving aunt or a loving grandmother, like you're a chauvinist, even though what you're talking about is give and take. But if your daughter is not being treated fairly, she has your backup. And that's where a lot of this comes from in the system. Previously, alimony was not legislated by women. It was legislated by fathers.
So
It was legislated
go ahead.
specifically by planter class, I should say wealthy fathers, because the legislators themselves, they had sons and daughters, but they didn't want their daughters marrying at a young age, because they wanted their daughters to marry wealthy men, but those wealthy men were not young. So they didn't want these men, these middle-aged men, to marry their daughters and then ditch them when their daughters got older, because they knew they would have done that if they could have gotten away with it. And so they came up with alimony for that purpose. And so that way, if somebody married their daughters and then ditched their daughters when their daughters got older, then they would still have to financially support their daughters instead of the daughters having to come back to dad. And since these dads were legislators anyway, they could just go ahead and legislate alimony. And that's what happened. So really, we have two fronts to fight, and that is that we have girl dads, and then we've got misandric women to fight.
Yeah, Jawad, shout out the Poor Man's Podcast. We forgot to mention him. He's and there's others, of course, but these are some of the most well-known ones. PMP, he's a pretty good guy. He does reactions as far as the delusion that men and women display dealing with these gender issues. I want to touch upon this. BIH Soldiers 91 says, the state of men today, we have allowed women to take their position as leaders. And Muhammad Sallallahu has said, any nation that has women as a leader will never prosper. When you say allowed, I can agree systematically. We don't have an Islamic system, okay? So systematically, we allowed them to take leadership, okay, systematically. But it's not us individual men that allowed them. This is like the brother just mentioned. This is from a legislative point of view that gave them this hubris, this overvaluing of themselves, and put them in a position as superior to men, systematically, So I don't think it's anything that men did that allowed them, except the Muslim men stopped ruling by Islam. We stopped ruling by Islam. We stopped enjoying the fruits of a system that kept the women safe, so they don't have to man up, as they say, because a lot of them are manning up, claiming that the men are not doing their job. Well, our job is to rule by Islam, of course. We failed to do that, so that is as far as our blame goes in allowing. But remember, there were whole systems, European and others, that established the rulers over our lands and took us out of the leadership. took us out of the leadership. I mean, it ain't just the Muslim lands they did this to. Look at the Philippines. The women go over to the Khaliji, areas and find work, clean houses, do nominal, labor. And what happens? They send that money back home to their husbands who are doing what? Sitting at home taking care of the children because there's no jobs there. So they, even with the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, they give loans to in the Desi community. They give loans to poor families, but just to the woman to buy a sewing machine and some sheep, and the man gets no loan. And it's better that she's a single woman, a widow, because they get no loans. They're trying to turn the natural structure of man and woman, husband and wife, on its head. That's what they're trying to do. So it's a systematic thing, and until we develop our own system, we can't challenge them, not as individuals, no matter how good a shape that we are in.
Yeah, regardless of the type of shape that we're in, all that's going to happen, and this is something that is supported worldwide. That's one of the reasons why I'm not so sure that I want to see red pill awareness, especially the black manosphere, wind up going mainstream. I'm not so sure I want to see that largely because of the pushback, or largely because I can't even say the pushback, but largely because of the diversions that certain mainstream media owners are going to have. They already have them waiting. Some people are looking for Kevin Samuels to turn around and take this thing mainstream, and they were upset that he wasn't jumping down Nicki Minaj's throat. Well, he had a right to, as far as I'm concerned, even if it was a platform. He had a right to be respectful because it was a platform. He could have gone either way. But the thing is that once it goes mainstream, a lot of them don't understand. This is subversive. This is not about going mainstream per se. This is not about turning it over from the top down. It's about flipping it or yanking the carpet from underneath everything from the bottom up. Because the mainstream media owners are going to turn around and start associating it with things that it's not associated with. Like I said, they can take us off our square if they create an overlap in between red pill awareness and alphabetic orientations, and they will be able to create the overlap. They did it with Morris Brown College in Atlanta. The reputation that Morris Brown had was as it was a glorified high school, a party school. Good students don't go there. Well, after a while, because of the reputation, good students did not apply there. So the only pool of applicants from which they had to draw were the ones that just barely got out of high school. And that's why it was that Morris Brown became what the reputation preceded the reality. Same thing happened with Spelman and with Morehouse. The alphabetic orientations became heavily associated by stereotype with these schools, but the reputation preceded the realities. So then after a while, the reputation became the reason that they got a large number of applicants of those particular orientations. And then you could see over a 2-year period how things changed and began to fall more in line with the reputation. And it's the same thing that they would do. They would turn around and just undermine it because they could get us to step off our square, not because we can't stand 10 toes down, but because they would change the square itself by creating that overlap. And so they got these ways to do it. And it's a good thing. Really, what we need to do is sort of like Dawah to Islam in a nutshell. And that is that we tell one person tells someone else. And then when they come up with negative publicity, we're able to show, no, that's not really what's going on. And somebody decides I'm going to go in and I'm going to preach Islam to them, turn the cameras on. I'm going to preach Christianity to them and turn the cameras on, watch this. And then he comes back and either he realizes that we're not dangerous to non-dangerous people, or he comes back a Muslim. It's a similar thing. If we actually lived it and had more stress-free lives and people could see it, then in a nutshell, this would go from one person to the other. But what we would have to do is that we would have to explain to these young boys, and this is the real secret, just like they don't want us teaching Islam to their kids. And I say that's exactly what we need to do. At least tell them what it is. The kids will make their own decisions when they get older, but we would tell them what it is, exactly like they don't want us to do. What we would have to do is we'd have to let these young boys know about male chastity, about why there's a red pill awareness, how the game is rigged. And we're talking whatever age, it's okay for a mother to tell her daughter about game, which is usually before her daughter stops playing with dolls. Then that's when we start telling our sons and nephews and younger brothers and younger male cousins about how the game is rigged, so that they go into middle school their first day equally gamed up as women, as the girls, I should say. So that when they first day of middle school, when they don't know anybody there, and everybody's nervous, at least they understand certain things about women's expectations. And just like the women have been taught to be overly cautious of boys because all boys want is one thing, they learn this even before the boys their own age have hit puberty. They've learned to be cautious and be leery. And we're not taught to be cautious and be leery with our possessions or with our private parts. We're not taught to protect any of these. We start telling these young guys that, because understand, one reason testosterone levels are dropping, it's not because of rising estrogen levels in men. That's not why it's dropping, because you could produce a lot of both. I mean, theoretically speaking, you could. The reason, okay, high estrogen levels could be based on diet, like the phytoestrogens that somebody mentioned in the chat. But the other reason why testosterone levels are dropping is because people react to their environments. I mean, if a father dies, the kids reach puberty, the boys and the girls reach puberty at a younger age because dad's dead. Or if dad leaves for whatever reason, it's the same thing. If he's just gone. So they start to grow more quickly. That thing of I had to grow up quickly, that's really there. It's in the pituitary gland. It responds to the absence of the dad. And then the pubescent hormones start to circulate at a younger age than what they would have otherwise circulated. So the brain is actually responding to the environment. They don't need those high levels of testosterone because testosterone comes with a libido. And one thing that men don't need right now is a libido. The reproductive drive is unnecessary in the West, especially for young men because they have fewer resources. So the brain is it's reacting. It's adapting. I'm not so sure how bad that is, except for the decrease in upper body strength. But then again, do they really need that either, except for self-defense? So, in a nutshell, what it comes down to is that we're dealing with a scenario in which the whole paradigm, the whole society wants us to be men in every way except below the belt.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna have to satisfy that. And what they're saying is, no, nobody owes you anything, even if they marry you. That's the other thing. That's what they're saying. These ladies are sitting up saying, even your wife does not owe you them drawers, but you owe her your wallet.
Wow.
And
Well,
so that's why it is. That's why
below the
these men are.
waist, below the waist, yes, but also above the neck. They don't want us to
Yep.
be men above the neck either. So I don't know what they're getting as far as the torso is concerned. You know.
Well, the thing is that, is as Beth said. Beth said that she's been called a pick me because she believes in submitting to a man. If you're going to marry him, go ahead and submit. Now, she's not saying that she'll marry for a dowry of an iron ring.
Yeah.
But in terms of once you are married, she does believe in the man being the boss and lady being submissive. And the women call her a pick me for the patriarchy and all of that. Well, see, that's because they're under pressure to be as difficult for men as possible. They get, like I said, in the hair salons, when you find out what the conversations are, this was 20 years ago. Those little girls are still alive. They're grown women now, and they're still getting their hair done. In these women's social spaces, you get points for being difficult to men. You take and you don't give, and you get points for that. So they're encouraging each other to this. And if you choose to not do that, they want to ostracize you. Crimson Cure is a Muslim woman that's in actually in the manosphere spaces. She confesses a lot too, and she's talked about this. She's talked about how it is that you get socially ostracized. Another lady, a Lebanese American named Amira, who I attacked as a racist at first. She's actually talked about this too. She's going on with Crimson Cure and spoken about this, and they
Lapeef,
talked
let's
about.
talk.
I'm sorry.
Lapeef, let's talk. She's on there.
Yeah. She's been on there before. I haven't watched one of their lives because of the time difference, but she's been on there before. And I'm not going to assume that she is a racist or that she's not just because she went on the live streams and panels with them. I would assume that she doesn't have a hatred. But outside of her racial views, I can say that that she's understanding of the gender issues and the gender problems. And she's told them, in effect, she's given dawah to them. She's told them, we don't date outside of marriage. So we have different ways and we're allowed to still look into each other, but it is different for us. But we come into it knowing what each one's role is. She's explained this. And it's been the sisters, it ain't been the brothers that have been, I'm sorry, it's been the ladies African American sisters that have questioned her, or they've been silent. They're not usually jumping in her defense. And it's been African American men on there that will either be silent or they will speak in her defense.
Yeah.
And there's one African American woman, I think her name is Courtney Michelle. Now, she cried and apologized to her baby daddy several months ago, I think last summer.
Yeah.
But she wanted to challenge Amira on a valid point, but it was completely different from the gender issues.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't going to sit up and listen to a lady tell her, you need to submit. He's the boss. You're going to make him pay the cost anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, they get ostracized for that. I'm just preaching a khutbah just to say that the women are under social pressure to never submit, even if you are paying the cost to be the
Never
boss. They're
break
under pressure.
ranks. Never break ranks.
Never break ranks. They're under pressure. So like you said, not just below the belt, but above the neck, they're under pressure to not satisfy either one. And they're taught to do that. Their mothers and aunts and grandmoms and older sisters, when their little girls playing with dolls, you know how when we were little boys, we had to go outside and play.
Yeah.
And even if you grew up without dad, mom would say go outside and play. But your sister or your female cousin, she could be inside playing with dolls, while moms and auntie and then the ladies were sitting up chatting. And what are they chatting about that they didn't want us to hear about?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it was. And so they start with that at a young age. And so they can't break those ranks, and they're taught how to, and they only get credit for stressing you out. That's it.
So Sister Sylvia Sumter says, Assalamu alaikum, walaikum salam, sister, say, I think there should be more classes for Muslims to teach the proper way of a Muslim. We need to learn more from our mothers, example, Aisha, anha, Fatima, anha, so on and so forth. Yeah, that is a really good topic, the women around the Prophet, the Sahabiyat, it's a really good topic, and a lot that we can actually learn from them. We can learn examples and things from them. We can't take sunnah from them. We can only take sunnah from the Rasul Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But this will be good for women to enter back into their feminine frame. They'll learn that, yeah, you can have jealousy. Yeah, you could have an outburst, as a human being. Yes, you can do that. But at the end of the day, you have to follow the lead of your Amir, which is your husband. So inshallah ta'ala, that would be a good lesson to learn from the women around the Rasul Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his wives and his daughter and so on and so forth, and those righteous women that will send their sons off to defend this ummah, fi sabilillah, and when the son come back, the women felt disgraced. They whether their son die fi sabilillah, so they can argue for them on Yawm al-Qiyamah, and 70 of their relatives, Muslim relatives. Betts says the best video I heard by RP, Red Pill Community, was feminism was invented by older women or alphabet women. We know those bulldaggers. In the women's studies department to keep younger women from accessing resources. Yeah, it's a trick of the shaitan. The shaitan didn't want to share any of the limelight with Adam alayhi salam, So when Allah Ta'ala made Adam, in the hadith, it tells us that Allah Ta'ala made Adam everything but the head. So the shaitan, Iblis at that time, went in and out of Adam trying to figure out what is this thing that Allah Ta'ala is creating. He was jealous from the jump. All of a sudden, Adam alayhi salam is created, the head is put on. He's in perfect form, as a human being would be, created by Allah Ta'ala initially. And given ilm, knowledge from Allah Ta'ala. So Allah Ta'ala tells the Malaika, bow to this entity I just created. And Iblis is in their company. He's standing there like, well, he didn't tell me to bow. So Allah Ta'ala says, Iblis, why didn't you bow as well? He said, me? And we know how that story goes. So it's again, hubris comes up, overinflated self-worth. Nevertheless, this is what happens, that the prestige that Iblis has now, Adam is above that. Of course, the Malaika had no problem, right? But Iblis, the prestige that Iblis had, being in the company of angels close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now here comes Adam, who Allah ta'ala is demoting almost in layman's terms, Iblis, by saying bow to this entity now that is above you. So again, this is what happens with women a lot of times. They live their lives, they have their careers, they spent their good fertile years trying to get a career where they be independent of a man. Now at the age of 30, they're looking for a man, and now you're telling them, okay, here's this man within your grasp, bow to him, figuratively, right? Bow to him. And they say, me? Bow to him? You see my career? You see my 6 figures? And that's what we're dealing with. SubhanAllah. It's a crazy scenario.
Somebody showed me proof of that, actually. A non-Muslim man showed me that a lot of these talking points that we hear from specifically black feminist misandrists that are talking about abort black male fetuses, a lot of these talking points were actually started a long time ago by, and it's true, they were started by middle-aged women of the alphabetic orientations. And that the reasons were because, simply put, straight women are going to be attracted to men. Straight men will be attracted to women. But these women were not straight. And they wanted, of course they were interested in women, but they were interested in feminine women. And the men that are of the alphabetic orientations are interested in masculine men. But these are the same ones that are not interested in them in many cases. And so they did create this in order to distance, younger women, the most attractive women, from men. And it worked because, as you now know, a woman can simply be just decent looking and she's got an attitude through the roof. And how's a man going to get to her, especially a normal man? So if she's a 4 in terms of how even she would rate herself, or even how women would rate each other if she's a 4, he still has to be an 8. And we're seeing that now. Well, that's in a nutshell, that's exactly what the case was. But this man sent me receipts. I don't have the links now, but this man sent me receipts of even some YouTube videos in which some of the Caucasian feminists were talking about the same things. They just didn't specify black male fetuses for abortion. And so what she said is actually what she said that she saw. This actually was the case. I didn't know that a lot of these red pill men were aware of who started it, but it turns out to be that really was back in the 70s. They've had these panels and oftentimes what they do is they may have a panel or a discussion somewhere and it's up on YouTube Live, but they don't leave it up. So people see it, but nobody can go back and refer to it.
Yes.
But this guy that referred it to me, he would download these things as they came up. And he would record them using some kind of software. So even when they took them off of YouTube, he still has them on a drive.
DuckDuckGo has things that people tend to rip from the internet. They make a mistake, they rip it. DuckDuckGo and other search engines like that still keeps it. BIH Soldier, I don't know how to pronounce that. 91 says, at Yusuf Chadri, weak Muslims have allowed it and now want to cry when things aren't working. Sisters and brothers, stop listening to simp imams and look into Islamic history, learn the deen. Those simp imams, like I say, Mufti Mink and things like that, I benefited from Mufti Mink and some things that he say, but most of the things that he say, man, it makes my testosterone go down and my testicles shrink. Some of the things that he says, he doesn't give the masculine aura that the ummah needs. A lot of these brothers, there's another one, Abdul Rahman of Knowledge North, I'll mention him by name. I don't think this man could defend his wife. If you touch his wife's backside, I don't think he could defend his wife, but he likes to talk a lot of madness. And I know people that talk like that, they bark loud. They're chihuahuas. Chihuahuas bark louder. Chihuahuas, Cocker Spaniels, Poodles, they bark louder and more frequent than big dogs, if you notice. You know what I'm saying? But they can't hold their own. So yes, we need stop following these simp imams that are not giving a solution, but only talking down on those that offer solution. So Jawad again said the question that we were asking is, if we work hard as men, then what do we as men get in return, masculine women? We have to look toward places other than America. If you are indeed, Jawad, in America, you have to look toward places that, the earth is a village now because of communication. So look toward other places, Philippines and Morocco and other parts of Africa. There are women sitting there wanting to be And all they know is that tradition. They come from a mother, father household, so-called nuclear household. Maybe it's polygynous. Maybe there's a bunch of nuclears, for that man. And they come from a traditional household where the mom raised her to be a good wife and showed her. And the husband showed, the father showed what a man really wants from a woman and what is she needing to provide. So again, these women are out there. We don't have to deal with these tattooed 50 push-up, after Fajr women, man. We ain't got to deal with them. And I'm being facetious in that, but, we don't have to deal with them. I want to move on to this real quick. I know I don't know how much time you have, but, I want to move on about the women not getting it. Now, I have I heard my son, my 17-year-old son, he's built like a man, like a cheetah, but he made a statement that it go both ways. Dealing with male and female, it was a dispute going on. He said it goes both ways. And I said, man, as much as I educate you and teach you about Islam, man, I can't believe you made that statement. I said, I know you get that from your mama. That statement right there definitely came from your mama because you didn't get it from my side. But nevertheless, before I get to what I gave him as a scenario to show him the difference between men and women, and it was a long conversation. We drove around, me, my 17-year-old, my 13-year-old drove around, and we discussed how men and women are actually different. They're actually different. Therefore, you can't approach both the same way. You can't say they have equal responsibility, even because Allah didn't give us equal responsibility, except in the ibadat. And even in that, they can't fast or pray on their menses, so on and so forth. So nevertheless, two different occasions, more than two occasions, but two specific occasions distinctly remembered by me. Brothers came to me and said, man, my wife is talking about this. And of course, we know it goes this way, like that. And I said, well, maybe you need to let her do such and such. And the brother said, man, but that don't make sense. I said, oh, I see the problem. I say, you're the problem. What do you mean I'm the problem, Mark? You just said she's wrong. I said, but you're trying to make it make sense. That's not the way they function a lot of times. And the scenario I gave my sons, I said, if you have some drapes that are worth $70 and they don't match the couches, which are worth $1,700, and the woman likes the drapes, because you're either going to change the drapes to make them match the couches, or you're going to change the couches to make them match the drapes, if that's an issue, okay? And women tend to make things like that an issue. Man, you can care less, or you couldn't care less, excuse me, I should say better. Nevertheless, so $17 drapes, $1,700 couches. If the woman likes those drapes, she's going to advocate for the changing of $1,700 worth of couches. She's going to advocate for that. Now, the man is going to say, that doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to get to like those darn couches, and to just change the drapes. That's more economical. A woman will say, I want to change the couches. And it's going to be a big argument. Now, let's say a woman says, you know what, baby? You're right. It don't make sense to waste $1,700 just because I don't like the couches and I like the drapes. Let's just change the drapes and spend that $70. You're right, baby. Alhamdulillah. You come home from work one day, she's going to be in the kitchen. And you're going to be like, what's wrong, baby? And she's going to say, we changed the drapes. That's exactly what's going to happen. See, we're dealing with a creature, that's primarily emotionally led. That is partnered with a creature that is more intellectually led. It doesn't mean that they're lesser in that regard or anything like that. Just that you have to understand them, where sometimes you have to just hand them the checkbook or hand them the credit card and just, take it out her allowance. I don't know how you're going to do it, but it's not always an intellectual exchange that's going on. But the man is always responsible, so we should always make the decision. We're always responsible, so we should always be in charge of making the decision because our neck is on the line. And that's one of the problems why women don't get red pill. It's too many statistics. It's too many analysis. It's too many percentages. They don't care about that. They don't care about that. Just on Fresh and Fitna podcast, there was a short few minutes video. Now, well, I guess he called himself Fit Marlon. He says, Myron, he says, 80% of almost up to 80% of divorces are initiated by women. The woman said, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. What is she basing it on? She pulled it out of her big BBL. She pulled it out of her BBL, because she don't have anything on her side. But they're shooting these statistics and percentages to women. And they feel different. And that's why women are not getting it. So is red pill going to continue to be monotonous? And we're sitting around smelling each other? I'm not saying myself, but sitting around smelling each other, because we only agree with each other. Until we get the woman to agree, we're going to stay in this situation. What do you think?
We were not going to get the women to agree in the West. I think it's too far gone. What has to happen in the West is that women that do believe in submitting are actually going to have to distinguish themselves. They may even have to pursue men. Imagine that, pursue a man and then submit. And maybe what has to happen, just because of the numbers, because whether they're outnumbered or not, they're outvoiced and they're underrepresented. I mean, the women that don't mean men any harm. The wicked witches of the West seem to be the majority, whether they are or not. We don't know, because there's no study how you're going to quantify what's a wicked witch of the West versus a woman that doesn't mean men any harm. But we know whose voice is the loudest. So the women that don't mean men harm are going to have to actually compete with the wicked witches of the West to try to get these good dudes. And then that means guys that they generally are not trained to go after. That's what's going to have to happen in the West. What I suspect is going to wind up happening, though, is that more and more men are going to start leaving. Not just leaving and then marrying abroad and bringing their wives back, because that's become unpopular now. A lot of men have said, don't do that. Stay over there. I suspect that that's one of the things that may happen. Men will leave, and there will be those who do the pump and dump. There will be others who say, no, okay, I'll settle down and commit and marry. There'll be those who do that and stay over there. But that I see a situation in which the West will probably wind up imploding, or worse than that, what Sandman said is very likely. And that is that as women go into politics more, they're going to get into, because already the majority of voters, they're going to go into politics. They're going to go past 50% of legislation, past 50% of legislative bodies. And then they're going to go past 60%. And then they're going, so when they have the legislative and the judicial, the enforcement branches, which will still probably be men for the most part, or the enforcement bodies that would still largely be men, well, they're going to have to enforce the laws that are made by the ladies. And when men start to ghost, when men who don't have the resources to just completely leave, just ghost and go off into the woods, live by themselves, build cabins, things like that, the men that work in law enforcement are going to be sent to collect them and make them come back in and perform and do labor, but not in exchange for anything they would actually want from women. So I suspect that that's one of the things that would happen. Or maybe by some miracle, a large number of men are able to leave the West in a short time. It's probably going to vary from country to country, to be honest, because the countries they're not the same. The West is not a monolith, but it is consistent as far as this is concerned, as far as feminism and misandry are concerned. But what's going to happen is probably going to be different from one country to the next. But stateside, where you guys are, I could see them closing borders and making it difficult for men to get passports, just because the men it would be too easy for them. And I could see them doing that. And already you have in Houston a lot of ladies taking over the judicial branch. There are more lady judges in Houston. And so in situations like that, it's probably going to be where men either have to sneak out the country, or they just got to ghost and go off into the woods. And eventually somebody's probably going to come and collect them, because you can't completely hide out. And I suspect that's probably what's going to happen stateside. But there will be an expat community too. And people will probably start looking into other citizenship, because that will be a way they could get passports more easily and then leave the country. They may start looking into that. Tell the truth, I wouldn't go back to the States and stay for more than a month. When I go visit, I don't go and stay for more than a month. I lock my passport up, and I try to get a backup plan to sneak out the country if ever the passport's canceled or they won't renew it or anything like that. As a matter of fact, when it's time to get it renewed, that's when I will not go back stateside. I try to renew it abroad.
Yeah.
Because of it, partially because of that, I can see where they're going to take certain mindsets and say, no, you're no longer allowed to leave. But the Western woman is going to do whatever she has to do to get you to give and not take in exchange. She will do whatever it takes. The Wicked Witch of the West, I should say. So yeah, I mean, a lot of guys who can leave, they're going to leave, and they're not going to stay in the States anymore. You already have a number of you had an increase in the number of citizens who canceled their citizenship, having nothing to do with red pill or feminism. But this is going to probably increase those numbers. And I'm guessing that that's what's going to happen. But the women are not going to be, I'm sorry, you asked about getting the women on board. In the West, they're not going to get on board. As a matter of fact, the ones in the West are trying to change the dynamics abroad. So right now in Kuala Lumpur, feminism is a problem. But what they want to do is they want to spread this from Kuala Lumpur to rural Malaysia. And Jakarta, it's a problem, but they want to spread it from there to rural Indonesia too. And it's not there yet. But what would have to happen is that we could go, yeah, that's right. Sweden is having that because they're having that issue because the men are marrying Thai women and Swedish men are marrying Thai women. Some country had a protest. Women protested and told the government to stop letting men marry Thai women.
Well, you got to be careful with Thai women. Sometimes they come with a little extra package. They look like women. Yeah, I heard about that. You got to be careful. A lot of people got tricked. It rhymes with trick.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have what rhymes with trick. Yeah.
I could imagine they've had contests in Thailand for those guys that can imitate women, but
but guess what though? Real talk. I'm joking right now. I mean, it's actually a reality, but I'm kind of being facetious. But listen to this, because so many men are going into that lifestyle in order to make a living, right? They're going and they find some tourists to get them, the top job, and even the bottom job, so in some cases. They'll find a guy, to simp out and get them the surgery. If a lot of men in that land are going over to pretend to be women, then what are the women left to do? They got to go out and find men. They got to go out and find men, and this is reality. So I understand these guys marrying these Thai women. I mean, they're cultured. I don't like the food that moves off the plate. I don't like that stuff. But if they can kill it and cook it, I'm cool with them. We good.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Thailand where they have it moving off the plate, but nonetheless, I see what you mean. I mean, not everything you're going to like, but nonetheless, they do bring that culture. There's actually an African American man that worked in Hollywood, and he's now living in Pattaya, living with his girlfriend. He doesn't want to marry again. This isn't the Muslim guy,
okay.
But he's talked about how much better it is out there.
Oh yeah.
And his channel makes it look. As a matter of fact, he's saying, I'm willing to help other men make the transition. If you come here and you're willing to obey the laws, I help you make the transition. And so and men are taking them up on that.
I wish I reach a point where I could do that, man, half the year or full time. Just, go and get a peace of mind, man. Go get a peace of mind.
That's what he's talking about doing. I got a friend that went to the Philippines. He married, and he was very happily married to his wife. That ended because his wife's family said to her, "Go ask him for money." Now they were nice to him too, but she was asking for money, and she was reluctant to do it. She didn't want to, so he was like, "Who's telling you?" And then he just went ahead and ended it because they were blaming her for the money he didn't send, and so. In order to keep peace between the family, and this is in the southern Philippines. He married a Filipino Muslima, but he said that in all honesty, he didn't have anything against the country. He'd probably consider it again, but he just doesn't have a connection to find somebody else. And so that's why he's not. But he'll look in other places. But the thing is that in the end, we're not going to get them on board in the West. We have to be gone. And they've already said this. One lady said on a live stream panel, talking about specifically African American women, she said to black men in these words, and I heard her say, "We are never going to change until you start leaving." She didn't know that a large number of black men were already leaving. She wasn't aware of that. So that there's not going to be a way that you get them on board, because even when you're leaving, like you said, you can tell them what the stats are, and they'll say, "I don't see that, I don't believe that," because they're always aware of the men that are approaching them and validating them, even if they don't want these guys. So that's not going to happen. What has to happen is that we're just going to have to go abroad, and we're going to have to work with local men as well to let them know that feminism is coming down the pike and the misandry's right behind it. It's not going to stop at women's rights. And we're going, and really, to be honest with you, I think the Muslims should be the ones that head this, that start leading this. And then that way we can let the local men know, our potential in-laws know, listen, this is coming down the pike behind me. I'm not saying this to blast the women or to talk bad about the ones I left, but just understand this is coming down the pike. They're already doing this in chat rooms, that they're spreading this to your sisters, your nieces, your aunts, and we will help you to push this back so that it doesn't make a headway in this country, because that's a win-win for both of us.
Have you seen the
That's what.
advertisements? They got Filipino commercial, online commercial, why you should marry a Filipino woman. We don't want much. All we want is a home that we could care for, and we'll cook for you. We're very traditional. We're very submissive. I mean, a whole commercial, marry us. Another one, us Ukrainian women, marry us. Marry us Russian women. They got all these advertisements. People say, well, these are scams. These women are actually getting married. Sorry, they're actually getting married. They got advertisements. Women are saying, bruh, look, here it is. These women are saying in unison, no matter where they are and where the commercial hails from, they are saying in unison, if you can't deal with American women, marry us. SubhanAllah, they're saying it, bro. I just sent my brother two
Not
links,
a,
two Filipino dating marriage site links to my brother who's 61 years old. I say, you got a nice home, you got nice vehicles. You know what I'm saying? I say, dude, owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself. Marry one of these women, man. Marry one of these women. And I sent him the link and he said, thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. You know what I'm saying?
to your blood brother.
My blood brother. Yeah, he's Calpha, but I'm trying to look out for him. I say, man, you going through too much with these rats, you know.
Yeah, it's understandable, and I see what you mean. Now, my brother, I was going to do something similar for him. My brother wound up getting married, and he did marry an African American who's quite nice. My parents were able to vet her. They vetted her for him, and they said, yeah, she's one of a kind. But I'm gonna say that these ladies, I didn't know about these commercials. You surprised me just now, and I almost cussed in Jamaican English, and I'm not even Jamaican, just out of taste. But the thing is that these ladies, I didn't know about the commercials, but I do know what the message is, because a Fulani brother living in the United States, as a matter of fact, Fuller Sports is his name. He's got a YouTube channel.
Okay.
Told me something about this, and they have a term for these Western women. I think they call them balejo, which I have to ask him exactly what it means, but they've used it in the context of the woman with whom you cannot deal. Well, he said that these ladies from these traditional areas are not just saying, if you can't deal with American women, we know how to treat you. They're saying, if you can't deal with Western women.
Yeah.
So they're competing, they're competing against the Scandinavian, the British, the Canadian, the American, and now even the Anglophone Caribbean women, like the Jamaicans, the Belizeans, the Guyanese women, Trinidadian women. What was the other one? The Bahamas. Bro, they are fresh out of control with these dudes.
Yep.
They're driving their men away as well. 3 men from the Bahamas, 3 different men that don't know each other, have told me that their women are pushing them away, and that they're pretty much willing to take anyone that's not Bahamian at this point. I had to tell them, well, remember, they got it from somewhere else, so don't you jump out the frying pan and into the fire and get you a Yankee broad either, unless you can vet her and she's not typical for a Yankee woman.
Yes.
But these traditional women are competing against Western women, period. It's not just Americans. So it's the West
Alhamdulillah, we
that's chasing.
I think we gave the topic some justice, alhamdulillah. And Brother Jawad, mashallah, he subscribed to your channel and he enjoyed the discussion. You know me, bro. I'm always going to shoot you, what's on my mind, what I got coming up next, and ask you if you want to, get in on it. I know it's a lot to ask you to get up so early, in order to participate. But, like I said, you one of the brothers, there's a good chemistry and balance there, with the dialogue and the information put out. And I think if people can benefit from it, definitely I'm going to, invite you on whenever you can be on. And as always, like I say, man, it's you're very well spoken. I wish I speak that well. I'm a stutter. I be studying in Arabic, akhi.
In Arabic, you mean? Really?
I
Wow.
stutter in Arabic, man. I couldn't even get out ra'asik, there I go again. See?
Oh, your head. Are you trying to say your
Nah,
head?
I
Are you
was saying
trying to say?
ra'as, but I was saying ra'asik. I was telling him his head. And I
Oh,
couldn't get it out, and I just I said da 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 da. I sound like a Kalishnikov. Da, 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 da. So
oh man, this is.
alhamdulillah.
Well, I
Yeah,
appreciate you having me on.
yeah.
Whenever I can help, I'm glad to do it.
Yes, sir.
And
Man, if I can
I
get you
will.
once a month, I'd be gracious, man. On any topic, you can just jump in, man. And, wherever you feel, you can give some positive impact. You know, Instead of them just listening to me, what do I know? You know what I'm saying? You come on and put some heavy weight on, the topic, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen. So,
Well, while you're talking about heads, two heads are better than one, or in our case, five heads. Uh, yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, four heads. Yours, Yusuf. I forgot the name of the other gentleman because he's very quiet. Bald-headed brother.
yeah, yeah. You talking about Jeremiah or you talking about bald headed? What you talking about? On the
I
podcast?
saw. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, you got Amir and you got Jeremiah. Jeremiah's the
Okay,
white brother, and Amir's the young brother that likes to give menus back to the waitress.
okay. All right, Ken. So I think you said Jeremiah is the white brother.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think the one I saw was Caucasian. I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay.
But that's the one I know about. So yeah, four heads are better than one. And I'm not sure exactly when, but I think this is Monday morning my time. I know it's Sunday night for you guys, but it's Monday morning here.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think I heard the Akama for Fajr.
Okay.
But yeah, I would be glad to do it if I can help out. If I can't help out, I would just admit that I'd have to listen. I don't know what I could say to contribute, but if I can contribute, then I would do what I can. And when it comes to the topics of education, history, and international travel, that's where I probably could give the most benefit to your viewers, to your
Alhamdulillah.
audience. I'll do what I can. I appreciate Jawad's vote of confidence and your vote of confidence, and I appreciate his subscription and make dua that I'm able to benefit him.
Alhamdulillah. All right, Akhi, jump in on that Fajr, alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair.
Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam, and thanks a million. And assalamu alaikum to your audience.
So, alhamdulillah, there you have it. My red pill burnout, again, I'll reiterate, um, became monotonous. It's too many of the same points being recycled. Nothing really new is happening except what Kevin Samuels will put out a short. I'm very entertained by that. And even better than that is Joker's Better Bachelor channel, YouTube channel that, very entertaining when he does the dating profiles, which they're actually trying to counsel him for doing that. Actually, it's subhanAllah, it's crazy. But nevertheless, so we that has me burnt out, on red pill, and I have my own perspective. People might say, "Well, you're in the manosphere, you're red pill." No, I'm actually not. I'm Muslim pill. I don't know what color that is. Green pill, color of Jannah. You know what I'm saying? So nevertheless, and then why women are not getting it, because too many statistics, too many percentages, too many facts. They're not. I'm not saying women don't deal with facts. They deal with facts to a certain extent, but when the facts are against them, then they tend to, rely on how they feel or their own personal experience. If I tell a woman No, I haven't seen the latest one, Brother Jawad. I haven't seen it, but I'm subscribed, so it should come across my screen. But nevertheless, they're not getting it, and then you will not understand why they don't understand, and that produces a conflict. It's better that we say, look, this is the type of woman that I want. If you're not willing to be that type of woman, I'm going to move around. Okay, I'm going to move around. You know, for instance, a black woman has certain features that are, how do you say, they're more profound than some other races, you know? So a man might gravitate toward that. Other women, my brother, my older brother, he's Kafa, 61 years old. He said that I like the way certain Asian women look in the face. I like that Asian, look in the face like that, so on and so forth. So again, people have their preferences. I know a brother that doesn't like, he never saw an Asian woman that he considered beautiful. I'm like, man, what is, y'all know this brother, I ain't gonna say his name, but I said, what is wrong with you, man? What is wrong with you? Nevertheless, we all have our preferences. My preference is not a masculine woman. I don't like the language. You can move your neck. That's fine. I deal with a lot of Desi people. They move their neck when they talk, but nevertheless, don't be masculine and trying to bark orders at me. I'm responsible. I'm your lead. I'm responsible. So if you're not going to be responsible, don't speak like you are. If you're going to raise your voice at me, then raise your voice at the burglar. Raise your voice at the purse snatcher. Raise your voice at the gangbanger that pulls a gun and tries to jack us for our wealth. I would say, look, young man, I'm going to walk that way. You deal with her. She's the man, But no, I'll be considered, oh, you're not protecting. Well, I need to protect you from me if you're going to keep yelling at me. You know what I'm saying? So again, and that's why women of other nationalities, other nations even, are advertising, marry us. We'll be what you're asking for, dear sir. We will shut the red pill community down. We will shut the manosphere down. All you will be happily married and healthy, eating good home-cooked meals. We don't care about a career. We care about making you happy. And the manosphere will disappear overnight. But guess what? You have a whole bunch of, the dog and cat shelter going to run out of animals. Because they're going to buy a whole bunch of dogs and a whole bunch of cats. Because ain't nobody going to want to marry them. Especially if we're going to be allergic. They're going to have dog and cat hair all over their body, from laying up with dogs and cats in the bed all day, and nobody's going to marry them because they're going to be allergic to them. So alhamdulillah for Islam. Alhamdulillah for Islam. And if there's not anything else, mashallah, I appreciate all these wonderful comments, wonderful questions, mashallah. It made for a really, really nice show. We'd like to thank Brother Black Mind again, Akila Nuisi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, for joining me. He's joined me in the past. I finally think I got a niche. I learned how to use his expertise, alhamdulillah, for a good dialogue, mashallah. The brother said, Brother Muhammad Hamzik, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's all good, bruh. But attacking Abdul Rahman of Knowledge North, oh yeah, he's simp. Some of that's the brother. You can't lie. Like, I don't respect liars, man. It's one sheikh here that lied and said he donated money to our masjid to put a roof on it. And the money disappeared and he didn't know where the money was. If you lie like that, I'm good on you. Never gave us a dime, yahi. I'm good on you. I feel like I know you now. There's another brother that said there was a spy in the masjid, and he said, why didn't you tell, Imam Sadiq or Brother Sadiq or whatever? He said, I already told Brother Sadiq. He don't listen. Another liar. I never trust this brother ever again in my life. You're lying about nonsense. Norm MacDonald has a funny joke about this. He said, you ever lie when it's not even necessary to lie? Somebody be like, did you see Avatar? And you be like, yeah, I saw it. Like, it ain't even necessary to lie. But Abdul Rahman of Knowledge North, he lies on individuals like Taquddin Afghani. He lies on Taco Dina Pani. Like, just, what did this man do to you? Where you lie on him? You know, this man has returned to Allah Ta'ala. He enjoys his reward or punishment, whatever Allah Ta'ala chose to give him. You know, we have his literature, we have his books, we have his effort that he produced. Okay, we have it. Why would you lie on him? If there's any crookedness in him, tell the truth. Tell the truth and you'll find the crookedness. So again, yeah, I'll mention him by name. I actually have a video where I went at him in a Sajid lap dance. You know, I went at both of them because why? Sajid acts like he's so innocent, just giving him a platform to lie and slander. You know, to lie and slander. Like I said, I don't think the brother can defend his own wife. I don't think he can. I think his wife, you know, probably need to, you know, get behind another brother if she's attacked. I don't think that brother will defend his own wife. But we can talk about that. And matter of fact, he said he wanted to come on the show, the Saturday show, and he never got back with us. Matter of fact, it was one day he said, I want to come on now. I want to come on now. And we said, man, we're on a whole different topic. There's something else going on. I said, you're welcome to come on the next one. And we never heard from him again. But again, if you know him, tell him he's free to come on Sunday, 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. Saturday, 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. And then we will, you know, hash this out. We'll hash it out, inshallah ta'ala. So, that's all that I have. MashaAllah, like I said, the comments are wonderful. The input was wonderful. I highlighted a lot of the really good ones. I didn't get to all of them. May Allah Ta'ala reward you all. Somebody saying stop, please. Okay, nevertheless. I guess I'll stop. This has been Saudi Ma'am for X Factly. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.